Yeah, hello, my dear brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming on live with us. And ahead of the celebration of the solemnity, rather the feast of the Holy Family tomorrow, I have deemed it fit that we come on live. Let us discuss the family institution, the structure of the family institution today, in alignment to God's original plan and the crisis of identity that the family is facing today, especially in our own time and in our own generation. I see a very big where you're following us from. And let us thank you for coming. So God himself, who has created us for himself, has an original plan for the family institution. The feast of the Holy Family that we are celebrating is so dear to the heart of the church. And in celebrating this feast, we are called to really reflect on the family institution, especially in our own society today, and ask ourselves very salient question. What really are the factors responsible for the crisis of faith and the crisis that we have in our families today? Yes, the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph is so called because of the presence of Jesus in that family. And very interestingly, it is because Jesus himself is present in that family that that family became truly sanctified and holy. So I welcome everyone who is joining us. Thank you. You're very welcome. Photo Bar, Abuja. We want to talk about the family institution this evening. And if there are questions, leave them for us in the comment section. We'll attend to them. Thank you for joining. The God Himself who has created us has original plans for the family institution. So, on the celebration of the Feast of the Holy Family, we give thanks to God first and foremost for the gift of the family institution. And most important of all, for creating man and giving him a helpmate in the woman. And instructing God and instructing both to take charge of creation, loving one another, and co-creating with God, that is, in sustaining the entire creation. When we think about the family institution today, a lot of things come to mind. Many young people seem to be afraid of joining and building families. They're afraid of the marriage institution. They're scared. And that is because of the very unpalatable realities that we are seeing around us today. The question is, how can this situation be truly remedied? How can this situation be truly salvaged? How can we, as a people, deal with this situation? We look to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph to teach us the way, to show us the way, and to direct us on how best to design our families and to live harmoniously. Only Jesus can help us. Adam and Eve sinned and fell out of grace. To redeem that and remedy the situation, Jesus Himself came to change the narrative. So, my dear friends, good evening, Maria. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming. It's good to have you. Maria, good evening and welcome. Keep sharing. Evening and welcome. Keep sharing the channel. So we'll really have to ask what makes that family so holy? Because Jesus Himself is present. A lot of our families are in crisis today because there is a lack of the divine in families. Many families seem not to have a place for God, and many families seem to have isolated God in the scheme of things, in their life and activities. In writing his encyclical, the Saintly Pope John Paul II, in his encyclical called Familiaris Consortio, in number 14, says that the ways of the family is the way of the society and the way of the church. And he continues that if we have good families, we will have good society. And invariably, we'll have good church and the world, humanity generally. But if we have bad families, invariably things will turn around. We'll have bad society. But I want to say that our families are not totally bad and they are not completely good. So we have a mixture of both good and bad dwelling with us. And that is why we have this we have. But the good news is that all hope is not lost. There are a few guiding questions, therefore, that I want us to anchor our journey, our discussion this evening on. A sound understanding of the family, what it is and what it is not. Then, a sound understanding of the family, what it is and what it is not. Then, basically, what are the major factors militating against family life today? And how can we truly work towards addressing these issues and factors? Our first concern, our first question border more on seeking to understand the intention of God for family. In the book of Genesis, chapter 2, we hear the account of the creation of man. God made man for his own glory and to be at the service of creatures. That is, to take care of what God himself has created. And the fact is, dear friends, humanity has deviated from that original plan that God himself had from the very foundation of the world. And the fact is, because of this deviation, man has been helpless. Man is no longer in charge of any of. Man has become helpless. Man is no longer in charge of any of what he was originally ordered to be in control of. From that, he gave man woman into the head. But in essence, they're the same. So if we have the crisis we have in our hands today, it is because there is a deviation, there is a shift from the original intention of God and what he desires for the family life. Today, we are having different orientation, different ideologies, different teachings, and people are beginning to change the narrative of what family should be. Such deviations are the fact of the promotion of homosexuality by some persons in the world. Have they bothered asking where procreation will come forth from? If man should marry man, or woman should take on a woman, these are the issues we're having on our hearts. Oh, they talk about adoption. Have they also forgotten that the child to be adopted is begotten of another woman? And of course, technology has made a lot of things so simplified for some persons today that they'll take scientific options in having children. The effect of that is there is no biological connection. And very soon, we will start having human beings walking on the street without fathers or mothers, but machine-made human beings. I thank you all for coming on board. Keep coming. And if there are questions that you think should be a discussion of 30 minutes and the remaining 30 minutes, if there are questions, we'll try to attend to them as well. So, my dear friends, these are the issues we have in our hands. The family institution today also has a very serious factor that is endangering it. Absentee parenting. In many homes today, it is either the mother is not available or the father is not available. The effect of this is that the parents who are not available will have malformed children because of the absentee father effect or the absentee mother effect on the child. Every child have right to grow, be nurtured, and mentored by both parents, the father and the mother, without exception, without anyone being isolated. But since we're having a lot of these issues in our hands, as a result of these, we have so many parents, because of their absence, so many children rather have become delinquents, are indulging in drug abuses, in sexual tendencies that is robbing them of their morality. And so these issues on our hands cause for very serious concerns. Maria, any question? Okay. Maria, any question? Okay. Okay, thank you. Yes, just from the last statement I made about the scientific options, which many people are taking up to today. The question, thank you very much, Maria, for your question. Maria is asking us the position of the church on in vitro fertilization. From the very concept itself, in vitro, meaning it is taken from outside and sent within. That is a fertilization outside of the natural abode where fertilization should take place. The position of the church, it's a capital no. And the reasons are very, very obvious. Because the baby to be formed is cut off from the natural bond that God has established for a mother and a child. The church is very much aware of the issues of infertility, much aware of the fact that some couples, after their marriage, for months are not able to conceive, and so makes alternative provision to this effect. We're going to talk about in one of our episodes ahead, and I will get an expert in bioethics to give us a deeper understanding of the in vitro fertilization vis-a-vis NAPRO technology that the church has recommended as an alternative, as the best of alternative as well. But beyond these, and His grace, have indulged in multiple abortion. The wall of the womb is destroyed already. And for men who also take contraceptive, from the very word itself, contra, meaning to oppose or block or constitute a barrier to conception, to conceiving, to such people as well, it will become difficult in the future because our body is made to build itself always. So if we have this understanding in mind, then every young man, every young woman must be very careful of their friends and what he or she allows in relationship as well. We have to be careful. We have to really, really be careful. And this is a caution too to our people everywhere. So like I said, I'm going to get an expert to really take us on naprotechnology, one of our very fine minds in the Archdiocese here. And thank God for technology and possibly my friends, medical experts, who will take us on this. So any other question? Photo bar. If you have a question, let us know in the comment section. Maria, thank you for your question. That was very wonderful. If there are more, let us know. Now, one of the crises that is facing family today is the lack of family spirituality. Just before we came on live here for this session, ahead of tomorrow's feast of the Holy Family, I had just attended a birthday of a mother of a priest, Mrs. Ade, great woman, a woman of faith, a woman of virtue, ever smiling woman, iconic woman. And there is something beautiful about this woman and her husband, our father. It's our father, Mr. Matthew Ade. You will never see them separated. Anywhere they go, since coming to know them, I always see them together. So sometimes early December, I think that was the second Sunday of Advent, I saw mommy in church, and she came to greet me after Mass. Yes, Mr. Paul Aggie, good evening. Daddy, thank you so much. God bless you. You're welcome. Yes, so and immediately I asked mommy, where is daddy? She smiled and said, my son, please come. And we went aside and she just said, that is sick, that is in the hospital. And that for me was the first time I ever saw her alone. Again, that for me sends a very powerful signal of the kind of bond that they share and how she felt, the countenance she was wearing, telling me that our father, Mr. Paul Aggie, just joined us. He is my father. And at the same time, the example I'm just giving radiates perfectly between himself and the wife as well. And you see, if we look at the lives of our parents and assess their marriage, if you are taking time to sit with our fathers and our mothers and ask them what is sustaining their marriage and what has kept their marriage going, you will discover, yes, Mr. Mwinwo, good evening, welcome. Mr. Anthony Marionu, thank you, Merry Christmas, God bless you, welcome. If you actually engage our elderly parents, what is keeping their marriage going is the fact that they have natural love and affection for themselves from day one. Mrs. Antonia Day, while giving a very short story of her life this evening, just before I came on live, on her birthday, she has been married for 36 years, and a marriage that has stood for 36 years. That is an eternal marriage already, leading both parties to heaven. And I bet you, you know, and I was so amazed. And while she was giving, he said, "What has kept me to my husband?" He said, "I love only him I love, and only him I've ever known." Is the fact that, according to her, that love was a natural, remains the natural love that she had just made. Now we come back home to see what is happening in marriages today. Of the privilege of my being a priest and where I work in the Archdiocese of Abuja as well, apart from the parish work, it breaks my heart as a priest, and it should break our hearts as people who mean well for the family, the human family, and the family institution in general, for different families, to hear that people walk into marriage with lies and deceit. I bet you that whatever is established on a false foundation can never last. Whatever is established on a shaky foundation of falsehood is bound to be destroyed. And whatever is not naturally motivated by that agape love that is deep within your heart, the beauty that attracts anyone, can fade. Only the love, true love for the object of the love, which is from the lover you to your beloved, your wife, and your intending wife, for the young ones who are intending to marry, can truly last. Yes. I welcome those who are joining us. We are talking about, ahead of the Feast of the Holy Family tomorrow, the modern family crisis, and why we should model our family, your individual family, the church as a family, Nigeria as a family, and how the family values should be made to be entrenched into the lives of our children. And it is so important, very, very important, my dear friends, that we hold this to heart. Now, on a note of the death of spirituality today amongst families, we'll discover very seriously too that families today are in crisis because of the lack of the divine. Many families today no longer pray together, and that is why they can't stay together. Many families today are at war with themselves, and that alone is affecting a lot of the bond that is to be shared. A family that prays together indeed stays together. And when one belongs to such family, when you build such family, you will long to always return wherever you go, because there is love waiting for you. But today, the reality we have is even many husbands are afraid of returning home, either for the crimes they have committed against their wives or the burden of guilt that lay in their hearts, or even for the nagging, for the violent tendencies of their wives, or their inability to stay together. For the young people out there, if there is one thing you must never make mistake about, don't make mistake about who you marry, because it can either alter your destiny or propel your destiny to greatness. And many people have been made because of the good wives they have married. And many too have met their destruction and have been destroyed, unfortunately, because of the bad men or the bad women they ended up with. we hear and many pray for a man after God's heart, for a good man, for a God-fearing man. The question rather should be that you concentrate on yourself and just be the good man that should be desirable to another person, or just be the good woman that should be desirable to another person. And once we get it right there, I believe perfectly well that the family crisis we have in our hands today will be reduced. I tell you a very short story quickly. A couple rather, in the ripe old age, particularly on the 40th anniversary of their wedding. The man was 70 years, the wife was 65. It means they married at 30 and 35, respectively. So, the pastor, while ministering at the anniversary mass, called the man out and called the wife. The man held his wife by the hand and they both walked to the sanctuary, to the altar. And the man called the closest friend to the couple, beginning from their best man and best woman when they got married. And interestingly, a few family members were there. The man called them out. Family members from the man's side, the pastor called them out. The family members from the man's side and that of the woman's side, family. And of course, they have been so blessed with children. This example I'm giving is leading us to a very great feature of marriage, a great element of marriage, which is indissolubility or unity. And the pastor told the woman, take away 2 persons from here. Before then, the pastor summoned and called out their parents, who were already very old as well. And the pastor called the wife forward. Step forward a little, he said to her, take out 2 persons from this body of persons that have come to join you on this altar. The woman took one of the friends of the man and took one of her own friends and asked them to go back to their seats. The man said, the pastor again turned to her and said, take out 4 more. The woman looked around again, took out more of their friends and separated more of their friends. The man said, take out 4 more. This time around, it was remaining their 2 parents, their children, the children about 4, then themselves. Wow. In tears, while she was tearing and crying, the woman separated their parents. And the pastor said again, this time around, take out 3 from here. As interesting as this may sound, the pastor was just watching to see what this, and the whole church was watching to see what this woman would do. And she asked 3 of the children, the first, the second, and the 3rd child. They had 3 of the children to go, and they go. Remaining the last child and the man and herself. And the man said, and the pastor said, take out 1 more person. Of course, the last born of the house was so beloved to the mother. The woman looked at the child and looked at the husband and asked the child to go. Wow. The whole of this number have been narrowed down to this woman and her husband. And finally, the pastor told her, if you are to take out anybody here, Who do you think should be gone? Who do you think should die first? And the woman took herself off, leaving the man on the altar. And the whole church was amazed and in tears. Two things have been pointed out here. The first is the fact of indissolubility, that what God has joined together, no man, no in-law, no father, no mother, not even your children can come in between you and your wife, and should come in between you and your wife. And secondly, and very importantly, that in the marriage union, you see yourself projected in the image of your spouse, and that you radiate your spouse. And that is why you must die to yourself and let your spouse rise in you. And that was what the woman symbolized by her very own desire to be gone and leaving the husband. That was Christ-like, and that was very, very powerful in itself as well. So we see God himself, who has ordained the family institution, desire that each should love the spouse whole and entirely, without compromise, and without resignation, and without reservation. The man loved the wife, and so does the wife to the man. And so, my dear friends, the family that we have today, if truly we can become selfless to each other, if truly we can love each other the more, if truly we can love children and give them their due in the family, above all, if truly we can pray together, hold hands together, the world will be more peaceful, the world will be more loving, and Nigeria as our country will be more peaceful as a country and more loving as a country. I pray for you and I pray for your families, that God himself will bless you abundantly with his peace and hold you firmly in his care and at all times. I want to thank you very specially for joining us this evening. Thank you, Mary Ajagbe. Thank you, Maria Rada. Thank you, Mr. Paul Agi, my father. Thank you, Mr. Christopher Nwimo. That is my lady chairman, the lady chairman of my church. Thank you very sincerely. Thank you, Mr. Anthony Mary Ondu. Thank you, everyone. All of you there. We'll do this again next week. At least once a week, we'll come on live to discuss. And please feel free to share the link of this to others to benefit. I'll take a pause now and allow us, if we have questions, to ask. God bless you. Are there questions? Let us have your questions. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Do we have questions? We're gradually coming to the end of our session today. And just a quick recap of our discussion, that the family is a very beautiful institution and modeled after the family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. First, the presence of God in our families through prayer, praying together, praying for one another, supporting one another, will make the family life more loving than boring. Yes, we're in crisis today, and we have a lot of crisis in our families today because we have relegated God to the background. We are dethroning God from his throne and enthroning him with other mundane affairs. Secondly, we must learn to create family time. We must learn to create time for loved ones. We must learn to appreciate family time. Yes, growing up, we have times where we tell stories. We have times where, God bless you, Mrs. Adolfia, welcome. We must learn to create family time. We must learn to shut out the gadgets, our phones, when we set out to have family time. Take outings together, take on vacation together, go on resorts, on holidays together, make out time for one another, give listening ears to one another, celebrate one another's successes, console one another in times of pain and adversities, because a family that is united in one mind and heart is a family that can pull through thick and thin. And everyone united together can do greater things with small love coming from a genuine heart. We have also taken an overview of the reality Maria, thank you for your question. I'll attend to that. Okay? And we have also come to terms with the fact that we must and should allow God to take his place in our lives as individuals, then in the lives of our families, and everyone should give God his due. We can operate on our own terms. And I want to thank you very sincerely for taking our time to be here. Maria Ajagbe has asked a question. Please, what is the church teaching on artificial birth control? Well, thank you very much once again for your very interesting question that has kept our conversation going. From the very word itself, artificial, which means not natural. God, who has created us, has ordered us for productivity. The church is aware of the little challenges that come with some families, inability to conceive, some medically redeemable, some not medically redeemable, but trusting in the power of God for miracles and intervention. Until I'm taking your question now, Maria. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Maria. Okay, good. So there we go. Artificial birth control is highly discouraged by the church. And I'm recommending for us here, as you should recommend for others, their natural birth controls. And I want you to study the Billings method. Yes. The church has perfectly studied that, understood it, and has recommended it. You could Google it at your spare time. Yes, we know this is a very Christian site. Do your best to ignore some of those infiltrating here with some comments I'm seeing. Well, they're not for us, so you just ignore them. but we'll control all of those subsequently in our next conversation. So back to the question of Maria. The church discourages all of those artificial birth control, contraceptives, pills, abortion pills, the use of condom, the use of pills, anything that is counterproductive, contraception, counter conception rather. The church is and opposes all of that greatly. So please discourage people and tell them to practice total abstinence until marriage, especially at a time where sex is being celebrated, sex is being flaunted, and sex is being, overtly, just hyped and so emphasized, and that has led a lot of our young people into the crisis that a lot of them are having today. So thank you very much for your questions and your contributions for today. In the next 3 to 5 minutes, we'll be signing out, and keep a date with us again on this channel, and help us to share this in the different forums that you belong. Encourage others as well to join us in this discussion. We shall put forth ahead of time weekly, once a week, as we try to go live or go streaming, this event once we are ready. And we'll try to broadcast topics ahead to enable us to prepare and get ready when next we meet here to engage in our conversations. Yes. So, Mr. Chris, thank you. And I appreciate all of you for joining us tonight and for your contributions. I pray for you. May the God of all goodness, whom you look upon at all times, bless you and hold you firmly in his care and bless you always with his peace. May his favor rest upon you. May he sustain you with his love and continue to prosper you. May the Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you. Thank you.